Well, thank you, Ute, and thanks to everyone who has joined this morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. I don't know if I'm going to do the real thing, as Ute said, because I'm supposed to give a very brief and unstructured introduction, because I really would like some of our team members to have enough time to talk and leave time for discussion in the end, because I mean, these presentations usually elicit a lot of questions and doubts. Anyways, I mean, like, I would like to briefly introduce the speakers today, and I mean, the work that we are doing in the Naples team. And for this, I will just quickly share some slides. Let me know if it's visible or if anything freezes, because my connection seems to be very, very slow. So what we're doing, I mean, we in the Śivadharma project in Naples are mainly working on Sanskrit texts, even though we hosted Tamilists for a couple of years. Our work is that of editing and studying the texts of the so-called Śivadharma corpus or Śivadharma collection, as some like to see. Which are centered around two earlier works, which are the Śivadharma Shastra and the Śivadharmottara. These two, I mean, on the Śivadharma Shastra, we work in a wider network that includes also Peter Biskop and Timothy Lubin, who recently produced an edition of a chapter of the Śivadharma Shastra, along with Nirajan Kafle, our team member. And the Śivadharmottara, I mean, which is a Sanskrit text, on the edition of which, I mean, I work along with Dominic Goodall and Yuko Yokochi from Kyoto University. So, I mean, these are the earliest, I mean, what we think we are the earliest works, I mean, of, but this discussion about that, of our collection, composed in Northern India, which have a very complex transmission and also a high level of intertextuality. And these two elements are actually the reasons why we are not just working on these editions in the traditional way, but we are trying to devise digital tools that help us study on one side this text better, but also to produce editions, I mean, of the text, both in a digital word and, I mean, as printed text. Just to give you some examples, so, and this will allow me also to introduce the work of other team members. These two texts have spread to Nepal very, very early, before the 9th century. And in spreading to Nepal, they actually were associated with other works, which you see in the slides, such as the Śivadharma Sangraha, the Shivopanishad, and so on, which were perhaps composed in Nepal. We still don't know. I mean, we're trying to prove it for the moment. And that we only know in these multiple text manuscripts that are widely attested in Nepal. We have around, for instance, I think now we can say around 20 palm leaf manuscripts. Kengo will confirm it because he's our guy, yes. And starting from the 9th century, we have an important transmission in palm leaf, I mean, of this, of this corpus. But then, I mean, we have also a lot of paper manuscripts. So the transmission of this text in Nepal really spanned from the 9th century till the 20th century. So it's very well represented. And we have this phenomenon of corpus formation that only happens in this region. So this is part of the regional adaptation that we work on. We have several team members active on the different works, like Nirajan Kafle, I mean, has worked on part of the Uma Maheshvara Samvada. Kengo Harimoto is working on the Uttarottara Mahasamvada, but perhaps he has different ideas on the title of this work. I will let him speak. There is some contested works, but then, I mean, the Vrishasara Sangraha is firmly in the hands of Csaba Kiss, who will also speak later. So this is, I mean, an example of one of the phenomena we're trying to account for. So the high number, for instance, of Nepalese manuscripts and the complexity that the formation of this corpus implies. But then if we take, for example, the Śivadharmottara, which is the text, I mean, that I'm mainly working on, as I said, I mean, also with Yuko Yokochi and Dominic Goodall, this text shows a high level of intertextuality, and which, for instance, I mean, is clear through the different reuses of this text or part of this text within other Puranas, notably the Bhavishya Purana, the Vayavya Sanhita, for instance, the Devi Purana. So we have parts of this work that have been reused and readapted. We have, just to give another example, a poetic summary of this text in the Haracharita Chintamani in Kashmir. So I mean, like in the far north. In all these reuses, the text was substantially changed. Then we also have quotations in commentaries and digests. So I mean, literal quotations with attribution to the Śivadharma. And besides that, the text itself reuses a lot of previous materials. I haven't mentioned the genre of this text. These are very close to the Puranic genre, but with, I would say, a lot of influence from the Dharma Shastra. For instance, I mean, studying the Śivadharma, one identifies a lot of literal quotations from the Manusmriti and for other important Dharma Shastric works. So in our editions, we would like to account for this complexity. So the reuse of the text in different contexts, but also the text itself reusing different previous sources. The Bhagavad Gita, I mean, now seems also to be a source of texts for the Śivadharma, for instance. And I'm just scratching the surface because now, I mean, I leave it to Dominic Goodall for the other brief introduction, because we move to the south, where we find, for instance, a Sanskrit commentary in Sanskrit. I mean, like a Sanskrit commentary, so in prose, we don't only have verses. And then, I mean, the whole important Tamil adaptation of the work, on which I think Dominic Goodall would like to say a few words.
Right, thank you very much, Florinda. So I'm also going to try and be relatively brief. Just one slide, I think, just to show you the names of the people in the Pondicherry team. My brief is to present what work is being done in Pondicherry in this great project. The team of people here is largely working on the Śivadharma, the second of this corpus of texts in the Nepalese corpus. That's one of the manuscripts from the 9th century, incidentally. And so I've listed the names of the people in the Pondi team on the right. You can see, for instance, the Kerala commentary. The commentary surviving in Kerala is being edited or transcribed piecemeal. It's very damaged by S.S. Sharma. Then various parts of the Tamil text, which is called the Śivadharma. As you see, that's being certain chapters being done by Rajaratnam, other chapters by Saranan. Satyanarayanan, collaborating with Kenji Takahashi, is doing an edition of chapter 7. So we've really divided the thing up into lots of different bits. And Professor Nachimuthu is translating a text called the Tirutaniye Puranam, which is a Purana about the site of Tirutani, so to the north here, South Indian site, particularly associated with Skanda. And this Purana, written in the 18th century by Kacciyappa Munivar, incorporates the whole of the Śivadharma's teachings in a sort of abbreviated version. So we were obviously interested in seeing what that says, to what extent it depends on the Sanskrit original, to what extent it depends on the Tamil translation. So I said one slide, but I'll just show you with all of these people involved, and you see that I've also written down below a number of the other people here in Pondicherry and outside who participate in the various Tamil readings. You can imagine that it's convenient to have some way of looking at the files together. And so I know that Kengo and Csaba and so forth are going to speak about, sorry, I seem to be on the wrong screen here, are going to speak about the editing methodology and so forth, but just one point about it. If I can share my screen for a second, one thing that we started doing lately is using this software called Overleaf, which I mentioned, it's something that is designed for, can you see my screen or not? I hope so. It's something that's designed for tech, let's say LaTeX, if you've ever used that. It's online, it has tech engines and so forth, but you can share the file. So lots of people can be involved together and they can edit together, or you can So many people, I think, are familiar with Google Docs. And one of the problems with Google Docs is, well, it looks like Word files, and there are all kinds of things that you cannot conveniently do, like have HTML or LaTeX syntax highlighting. And so what we've started, but this overleaf, if you give the right file extension names like HTML or TEX, it actually produces syntax highlighting even for the commands which we invent on the spur of the moment. And so this is just to show you an example of a little piece of the Tamil text. So we can all sit around, 15 of us together if necessary. The Naples teams often join us and have readings where we can discuss everything, and also everybody can participate in tweaking the text here and there. I won't go into how this then might be displayed or changed into letterpress print, because I think all of those things are going to be handled by other participants. And finally, just for a second, I mentioned my own involvement, which is particularly with chapter 10. Chapter 10 is of the Śivadharma in Sanskrit. It is a chapter which is gives the yogic teachings of the Śivadharma, and is of very great interest, because one of the things that changes when the text is transported into the Tamil country and transported into Tamil is it's very clear that the text is regarded as a text belonging to the agamic corpus of the Śivadharma. So it's rather clear that in the beginning it was not seen as a text of the Śivadharma, and so its teachings are really about what all kinds of ordinary people can do and what kings can do, but it does not have any teachings that are distinctively tantric. It has sort of proto-tantric teachings. But by the time it gets translated by Mahayana Sambandha in the 16th century, it has become filled with Sanskrit ideas. And in fact, I put this one on the screen just to show. This is a verse where the Tamil does not really correspond to the Sanskrit. And it's clear that the ideas of the Shaiva Siddhanta, notably the idea of Arnava Mala here, are being incorporated and read into the text as though they were already there. And it's true that if you start from the premise that the text belongs to the Shaiva Siddhanta, you feel that you can see these ideas, but they're really absent. Okay, after that introduction, I now hand over, I think, to Csaba Kiss to speak about the methods we are following and how, well, I'll let Csaba formulate.
Yes, thanks a lot, Dominic. Before Csaba, perhaps, I would like to introduce the work of the three team members. Csaba Kiss from the University of Naples, part of the Dharma project, which is our sister project, so to speak. And Martina Dello Buono from the University of Bologna, which is another institution participating in the Śivadharma project. They've both been working on digital tools to edit the works of the Śivadharma corpus with different approaches, as you will see. And then, Kengo Harimoto from the University of Naples, again from the Śivadharma project, will introduce us to some of the, of the tools that he's been developing for easing our work on this complex text. I think we structured 15 minutes each, something like that. Would it be fine? Okay.
Thank you, Florinda. Thank you, Ute, for the invitation, and I'm very happy to be here. And please stop me if you have any questions. So it's not a talk, it's not a presentation. Let's just talk about the things. And I'm not an expert on computers and programming, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt, as you say. Let me share my screen. Let's start with two light bulb moments for me. First light bulb moment was 3 years ago, Berlin TI training workshop for a week. It felt like a month, I think. Then I kind of realized that TI is really not perfect, not ideal for critically editing text. It's very good for a lot of things, archiving and exchanging files, etc., but maybe not for the process of editing. And some colleagues, friends agreed with me on this. The other thing was another workshop recently, Bochum, a digital humanities workshop, where I realized that most of the other projects, most digital humanities projects that I know, deal with huge databases, problems concerning huge databases. They were kind of complaining a lot. It was kind of a gnashing of teeth instead of just a joyful experiment thing. So I realized that the Śivadharma project is really not so much concerned about big databases. We will have some sort of database, but it's not, I think, at this point, not our main concern. We are really concerned with editing, how to edit text and how to make critical editions. And also, we don't want to have all these problems. We would like to enjoy the process. And also, my mania, one of my manias, is that when you're working on a text, a file, the file should remain readable. A lot of solutions like TEI can get very messy and unreadable. Of course, any kind of file can become very unreadable, but TEI is not really not the best solution for keeping your file readable. Just a bit of, I mean, I don't want to appear as an anti-TEI person, like I'm not fighting against TEI. TEI is good, but maybe not for us. So TEI can get very messy. I mean, this is an example from the TEI website. I mean, you can encode a text like this. You can type in something which is ready. You can hire a typist to do this, I think, or something. But to reread your text in this format and edit it and think about your text in this format, it's not ideal, I think. So, and it's very verbose. So a lot of things are kind of unnecessary during the process of editing a text, like all these indications of the verse number, etc. It's just, you don't need them when you're editing a text. So we came up with this very, very primitive format, which is a mixture of XML and LaTeX. It's just made up. It's nothing. Well, let me. I mean, can you share this? Can you see this other screen now? Like this file? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is a file I'm working on. So you just mark up your main text. It's very primitive. You say this is the apparatus, the beginning of the apparatus and end of the apparatus, and you use LaTeX type Sigla. If you could use any sort of simple method to mark up your text, and then you can change your text. You can transform your text if you know a little bit of programming, or you can ask somebody to write a little script that to transform your text. We also add the translation here, and if you have a good editor, you have all this syntax highlighting, which makes your text very readable. So this is what we use as an input file. You can put anything into this input file. It's not sensitive. Anything outside these tags will be just ignored, or you can ignore them, or you can use them, you can grep, you can search for stuff. It's a very primitive format. But you can then relatively easily produce LaTeX. You can see it on the right, a LaTeX PDF in Devanagari, for example, or an HTML version. Let me show you. Can I show you? Yes. Where is it? So any sort of LaTeX output is not terribly difficult like this. If you can see now the PDF, I hope you can. If you actually look at the file again, you can see that this very primitive format is sort of an imitation of the LaTeX format we use. So even manually, you can change your input file into a LaTeX file. If everything breaks and nothing works, you can just manually, very easily turn it into a LaTeX file. If you know LaTeX, or if you prefer. We actually like LaTeX. I mean, producing a book in LaTeX is not it's not outdated. I think it's a very good method. You can choose another format in LaTeX, of course, if you want. You can switch between Roman script and Devanagari. I mean, in this TI world, I sense that the fact that different scripts are important is kind of ignored. I think it's very important to produce different versions, Devanagari and Roman versions of your file. For colleagues in India and Nepal, I think it's a must. I mean, we shouldn't really just stuck with the Roman script. But with a little script, like a little program, you can produce an HTML version of your file if you know HTML. I mean, if there's somebody who can handle an HTML file. This is something we experiment with. So you have this Sanskrit file. I mean, I can sort of share this, well, not now, maybe later share this link because it's online. So you have the Sanskrit, you click on the Sanskrit line, you have the apparatus, the parallels and stuff. So it's foldable, you can open it and close it. If you press a button, the whole thing turns into Devanagari, which is very handy, even for European scholars. I mean, sometimes you want to look at your file in a Devanagari version. If you press another button, you have the translation, for example. I mean, the opportunity. I mean, the ways of visualizing a text in very old-fashioned HTML with JavaScript is, I think, there are endless possibilities. You have the notes. If you inserted notes, you can visualize the notes. So it's not TI, it's not XSLT. So we have been told that you just work on your TI file, which can get very complicated, but okay, you can handle it. And then the experts will send you an XSLT file, which does all the magic, and you will have a very nice visualization. But it never happens somehow. I mean, XSLT can get very complicated, and it's just out of hand most of the time. So it has never happened in the Dharma project, I think. Yeah, what else? So this is, for example, another way of visualizing a text. This is the Tamil file that Dominic showed you five minutes ago. This is so simple. The file itself is so simple that actually for a simple file, you can have an XSLT transformation very easily. So this is just the XML file which you saw 5 minutes ago. It looks like this. Very simple. You just make up tags basically. You don't have to, you don't have to follow any.
Could you show the toggling on and off of the Tamil words in the translation for that first paragraph?
Sure. So it's just transferred by XSLT, and then you write very simple, HTML type code, which enables you to fold parts of the text and also delete parts of the text. You have the translation here, if you can see it. You push a button, and then you have the Tamil words inserted. It needs a little bit of tagging, of course. It's like this, but it's still very light. So it's you can learn the whole thing in like 5 minutes, and it's not very complicated. But this is, for example, XSLT. I have nothing against XSLT, but when you have a very complex file with a complex text, complex apparatus, whatever, XSLT can get, I think, really out of hand. Another thing is that I don't know how much time I have left. But other thing I would like to...
5 more minutes. And yeah, okay, I'll tell you something at the end. I have a question.
Yeah. I mean, please. So another thing which I see in other projects, that they go for like big solutions, universal solutions, huge databases, huge solutions. I prefer little steps. like, not this one, the other one, like a really good platform to transform Roman to Devanagari, Devanagari to Roman, Tamil to Roman, Roman to Devanagari, to check the meter, for example, of a Sanskrit line. I mean, something which really works fine. I mean, you have these things on the internet, but I just wanted to have something which is secure and nice, and something which I can learn from. I mean, I like to deal with these things not because I'm the best programmer, but because I like to learn about these things. People should learn a little bit about the computer, like how computers work, and then we can come up with like interesting, innovative solutions, I think. Yeah, what else did I want to say? Sorry, but a lot to say. Yeah, this is just a very stupid diagram. So what are we doing? So we have this very simple non-format thing which we just made up. We have the input like manuscripts and printed sources, so we just collate, of course, the text. And what we wanted is a very flexible way of producing any kind of output. For example, just a very simple text file without the apparatus, which is very good for graphing searching. Graphing searching in TI files, I don't like it. Of course, we like LaTeX, so we want a way to produce very simple LaTeX files in Roman and Devanagari. Of course, we can produce TI. So TI, in my mind, should be an output format, not an input format. Let me just show you how I do this. So if you can see, where is it? Okay, I kind of lost it. Yeah, so I just wrote a little program. It's a bit complicated, but it's not horrible. And you have this very same input file, and you just run this program on the input file, and you have the TI version of the apparatus and the lines. It's a simple TI file, but I think it's easier to have a simple input format and then automatically turn it into a complex, complicated format, not the other way around. So it's like just common sense. Also, little tools like checking the apparatus. Have I left any signum out? So I'm just running a program with this option. Please check the apparatus. This is my input file. Please check these sigla. And it says, okay, there were no problems. If I delete just one siglum from my file, it will complain. Okay, there's a problem in this line. So we are human, we make errors, we make mistakes. Why not use the computer to check our mistakes? So little tools, small tools, not big solutions, and common sense. My time must be up by now, I think. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Csaba. I mean, I don't have a question. I just have a very small observation, perhaps to make it clearer to people who come from outside our group, that the workflow that we have with Csaba, sorry, my cat requires a lot of attention right now. Like the workflow that we actually have with Csaba is that we produce this very, easy files which we use, this simple tagging, and through Python, it can, in fact, like the program that is mostly using, you haven't mentioned the keyword of all your work so far, is Python. And through that, we are able to produce all sorts of output that you saw. So we start from the same type of file, that is what Dominic showed, what Csaba showed, and from that, just through the script that Csaba wrote, we can in fact produce different types of output, both, I mean, in LaTeX, and then, I mean, the online output that you just saw. So this we achieved just by, I mean, thanks to Csaba, who said he's not an expert on computer, but in fact he is. And he's a programmer, and so, I mean, he managed to create all this. But now Martina, sorry, I mean, I think I will have to, it's not the time for me to speak, but now Martina will in fact show us something very different on which we have been working, something that does not imply the use of Python, but I mean, we have been working on developing an easier digital editor that will, I mean, in our aims, I mean, in a couple of years, hopefully, give us an easier tool to produce online editions. Martina, are you there? Yes.
I'm here. Thanks, Florinda.
You're
Can
welcome.
you share my screen?
I think so, please.
Right, I think that you can see my screen. Okay. All right, so good morning, everyone. I'm Martina Dello Buono. I'm not an expert of Sanskrit, but I'm a digital humanist, and I'm currently working as a full stack web developer in the Śivadharma team. Today, I'm going to show you a project, let me say a digital part of the project that is Śivadharma database. But before starting to introduce you this project, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor for me, so thank you. Śivadharma database is a web application that you can see here. And it acts like an environment for creating, for producing, publishing, but also updating and access the digital editions of Śivadharma. But you can use this web application for every edition. And this doesn't involve any type of coding or encoding as required steps. So it's supposed to work even if editors doesn't write code. In fact, the concept behind this project is very simple. We would like scholars to avoid spending time on writing code or on technical issues, but remain devoted to scholarly questions during the editing workflow. So Śivadharma database was born as an editing and publishing environment, allowing scholars to prepare their digital editions, including complex structures as the apparatus, notes, and parallels directly in their final visualization. In a minute, we will explain this interface deeply and publish them online on the same platform. So basically, Śivadharma database is useful for creating from scratch an edition, a scholarly digital edition, and also to access and read the edition on the same platform. But before starting to develop this web application, we need to determine a valuable toolkit for accomplishing the tasks related to the editing and publishing workflow. So we try to recognize the patterns in this kind of process. And by observing scholars working on their edition and reading edition, we try to understand which are the fundamental features of an edition and which are the functionalities that an editor needs to create an edition from scratch. So we needed to start with a preliminary design stage that led us to a definition of several requirements to comply with during the development stage, and we created a prototype of the final visualization of an edition. A prototype is a very important product in this case because it summarizes all the features that an edition should have before starting to develop. So what you are seeing now is the prototype of a scholarly digital edition of Śivadharma, our case study, which was edited by Florinda De Simini. So let me say this is the output of the creation of an edition by using Śivadharma database. As you can see, the most important features, the most important components of this edition are the textus constitutus, that is the core of every edition. Its components are very recognizable. In fact, we are dealing with a text that is divided in stanza. Each stanza is identified by a number, and the text is scrollable. So the user, the reader, can read the whole text just by scrolling this box. Another very important functionality is the apparatus. That is a very complex structure from a technical and formal point of view. The apparatus is available in 2 different sections of this page. We have an apparatus that is in line, and so for each stanza, we have the corresponding apparatus entries. Each apparatus entry is composed of the traditional components, so we have the stanza, the pada, the lemma, the variants, and also the corresponding sigla of the manuscripts, of the witnesses. Some interactions are available. In fact, for example, we can click on each apparatus entry to see the occurrence of the lemma in the text, or vice versa. The apparatus is available also down the page, in which we have the entire apparatus. So an editor or a user, a reader, can access the whole apparatus while reading the text. We have also the notes, as in a traditional scholarly edition. We have the translation. In fact, in this part of the page, we can scroll and obtain the whole translation of the text. Also, in this case, we have some interactions that are possible. For example, we can click on a translated stanza to obtain the corresponding point in Textus Constitutus, or vice versa. The last but not least part of this prototype is the section dedicated to the parallels. In fact, by clicking on Parallels tab, we obtain the full text of all the parallel sources used in Śivadharma. In this case, we have just some stances, just because it's an example, but we want to insert the whole text of each parallel. Also, in this case, we have some interaction that are available. We can open and close a parallel source, but we can also click on a stanza of the parallel to obtain the corresponding point in our text. And down this section, down this stanza of Śivadharma, we have also the stanza of all the parallels that are related to the original stanza. And we can click for example, on Seoul, to see which are the stanzas that are a reference in our Śivadharma. So basically, these are the functionalities, the core functionalities of an edition created by Śivadharma database platform. But how can we create this kind of complex components? In Śivadharma database, we have a section that is called the Create an Edition, in which we have to insert some basic metadata to create our edition, to get started. Since we don't have so much time, I've already prepared an edition, which is the same edition that we have seen in the prototype. So Śivadharma curated by Florinda De Simini. And this is the whole environment in which to work for creating the edition. The first thing that we have to do to create our edition from scratch is to insert the Textus Constitutus. We can upload a file in docx or txt if we have it, or if we don't have the file of our Textus Constitutus because we have to do it, we can just fill in this form and create step by step our text constitutus. We can add metadata. There are some basic metadata like the work, the title of the edition, the date of publication, but the most important part is the witnesses part. In fact, in this space, we can declare all the witnesses that we have to use in our edition. And for example, we can add a siglum that is an O15. We can submit it. And all the data that we create in this space will be directly sent to the database, to a graph database that is called Neo4j. It's very important to declare which are the witnesses of our edition in this space. If we have a table with all the witnesses, for example, an Excel file, we can upload it and all this work will be automatic. If we don't have it, we can fill in the form. And after declaring the witnesses, we can start to work on more complex components of our edition. For example, we can try to create an apparatus entry together by using this tool. For example, Scandam. We want to add some information about the Scandam. So we can click on the corresponding button to add an apparatus entry. To add an apparatus entry and to use this system in general, we have to underline, to highlight in the text the string to which we want to add information and fill in the form. We have the rules. So Scandam is our string to which we deselect the fragment to which we want to add some information. We have in stanza, in the second stanza, so stanza 2, and then I'm not a Sanskritist, but I think Scandam is in a C pada. The lemma is Scandam, as you know. And please, while I'm writing, you can check your work in a live check box. So what we are doing is easier. So you can preview your apparatus before sending the data to the database. We can add the witnesses. I've already inserted the witnesses in the metadata. And we have NC, for example, 45, and NK 28, and so on. So we can declare all the witnesses. You can see the list of the manuscripts because I've inserted these witnesses right here in the metadata before. And so this is our apparatus entry. And we can also declare the variant. The variant for Scandam is Scandam, I think. I can copy and paste it from here. All right. And the witness in this case is NO15. And this is the result. If we have more than one variant, we can declare other variants. So we can basically add all the variants that we want or delete it. And this is the apparatus, but we have also more functionalities. For example, the translation. If we want to add the translation, for example, we want to translate this stanza, I have to underline the corresponding stanza and click on this button. Here we have a form in which we can copy and paste the translation of the second stanza that I can copy here. And submit it. We can also check what we have done before. In fact, when I prepared this edition, I added this stanza, translated stanza, just to show you how can we check the already sent data. And then we can submit it to the database. We have other functionalities that are not working for now because this is an ongoing project, but we will be able to add parallels and citations and also notes and declare the text structure. So declare which is the chapter, the stanza, and the padas. When we are satisfied with our works and we think that the edition is over, is ready, we can publish it. So, sorry, and so this is the result. You can see that the structure, the layout of the final output of the final visualization of the scholarly edition is the same of the prototype. So we have the Textus Constitutus that is scrollable. We have our translation, 2 stanzas for now because we inserted just these 2 stanzas. We will have the parallels, the citations, and below we have the apparatus. For example, we sent the second Ciscandam apparatus with all the manuscripts, and this is available here. This is the work, basically the work that we have to do to create from scratch an edition. But if we don't want to create an edition, but just want to read an edition, and we are users, we can click on edition sections, where all the published editions are available, and you can click on read edition to see the edition that is ready to be read. And so basically this is the work. We have the code of both the prototype and the Śivadharma database web application available online on GitHub. So if you are curious, if you want to try to run these applications, you can find Śivadharma XSLT based text repository on GitHub on my page, and the Śivadharma database repository for the code of Śivadharma database. If you want to run this web application on your computer and try to use it on localhost, these are the instructions. And if you want to be helped with this, please write me. I'm happy to help you. And the last part of the project is about OMKS. In fact, as you know, there are variants, there are multiple manuscripts, multiple witnesses that are inserted in an edition. And if we have the facsimiles, like in the Śivadharma project, we will put online everything on OMKS framework, in which every image, every facsimile will be characterized by a URI that will be inserted in the Śivadharma database, so we can link our witness sigla to the directly to its facsimile, and this will be a part of the project. I think that I have said everything about the Śivadharma database. I hope you will use this tool in the next future, and so thank you.
Thank you very much, Martina. If you could stop sharing, I will just add just a very few words before, giving the chance to Kengo to present. Well, I mean, this is, as we said several times, really in its own beginning, and there are several functionalities that we still need to develop. Such as, for instance, in the visualization, the shift to Devanagari. So, or all the possibilities and all the functions that we will need to connect the Sanskrit and the Tamil text. So this is just, a project that is, as far as the digital side is concerned, has begun right now, but we see a lot of possibilities in the work that Martina is doing, following in Csaba's footsteps, because the main aim would be to have a program that does not imply the use of any software, that will just needs the editor to be able to access. This works online, but then you can also work offline. Does not require any encoding in the first step. And what we told Martina, what we were always telling each other, is that we would like to have an editor in which people can work directly. So you can create your own editions, you can keep changing your own editions. So this has to be a working tool, just like we use whatever editor that, from Google Drive to Vim to whatever textual editor, and then to have something that is free of any licenses. This is another important point for us, because once we will have the editor, well, of course, they will need a lot of experiments by team members. If the thing works and other people like it, would really like it to be absolutely free, as the European community requests us to do. So I don't know if Dominic wants to add anything about, what we've done so far, or we just want to now, give some time to Kengo and then have some final comments.
I think Kengo should speak.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kengo.
Yeah, I unmuted myself, so and I should share screen. Okay. Do you see my slide? Well, can you hear me in the first place?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the topic I talk is I think it's more generic, but but this apparently was born out of necessity doing the work on the Śivadharma. So yeah, I titled my slides saying "Machines do not complain yet" because it's and the subtitle seems a little bit more technical. Yeah, I just wanted to sound like more technical, like using Laban state distance stuff. But what I want to talk about today is so I wonder if anyone thought of how many common lines are there between the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, and I wonder if there actually was anyone who actually tried to identify them. It's just the thought of it is tedious, no? And then nobody wants to do it by hand, I think. So, but computers are good at repetitive tasks, and the AI is not developed yet to the point that they start complaining. So we can do that now. So yeah, doing that poses several problems. It's super labor intensive, and even if you're using e-text and trying to find like the same lines, etc., they can be prone to errors, and everybody encodes Sanskrit text slightly differently from everyone else. And then if you're just looking for first few words, maybe you miss the line that share like 75% of the remainder, etc. So it's not particularly realistic to do that by hand. And then so I thought of doing this when I was writing this article, and I just wanted to say I hope non-project members still remember all those components in the Śivadharma corpus. So I wanted to write this line or this sentence saying the Uttara Uma Maheshwara Samvada shares such and such % of the text with Uma Maheshwara Samvada. And I just wanted to write that sentence, but I did not want to count that, count how many lines are in common by hand. Just I forgot how many lines there are, but less than 10,000, couple of thousand lines, and then comparing two texts to find all the shared text is, if you think of it, it's a lot of work. So I just didn't want to do that. So I thought maybe this would be a good opportunity to learn Python, and I decided to make it a weekend project. So, and other more proper reasons would be that we know that much of the Śivadharma comes from the Śivadharma Shastra. We also know that the Uttara Uma Maheshwara Samvada shares a lot with the Uma Maheshwara Samvada. But then how much? So that's what I wanted to find out. And now you can get the answer to the question in one afternoon. So I'm not going to demonstrate how you find the parallels in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. On my computer, I think it took a whole afternoon or maybe longer. So I don't want to do this. But if you issue a command before you go to bed using a modern computer, then I think you will have an answer by the morning. So that's doable. And I think it's pretty impressive. But for the other questions, it takes only a few seconds. So I will try to show you this. So let us find parallels between the Śivadharma Shastra and the Śivadharma. So this is again another Python script. Or yeah, that project was that I wanted to learn some Python. So it's a Python script, and this is these are e-texts of the Śivadharma Shastra, Śivadharma. I will mention that so different people encoded these two texts, and they are not 100%. Yeah, so the systems of encoding were not 100% the same, but we still can find it. And you so yeah, what happens? So these are all the parallel or suspected parallels, and it should end in the, okay, so it took 6.81 seconds to find all the possible parallels between those two texts. And then let me try the Umamaheshwara Samvada and Uttara Samvada, or Uttara Umamaheshwara Samvada. It's faster. And it took 2 seconds, 2.3 seconds. And Florinda mentioned something about the Bhagavad Gita and the Śivadharma. So let's try that too. And okay, so it took 5 seconds. Actually, I compared the e-text of the Shankar's Bhagavad Gita Bhashya and the Śivadharma, but it only found parallel lines. There are some secrets with it. But, so how many Gita lines are in the Śivadharma? About 20. Yeah. So and yeah, so that's how fast you can find the parallels. And yeah, so maybe I will show you what those scripts look like. Okay. Yes. So this is another. Oh, this is a screen from another. What is it? Decent text editor that does syntax highlighting, and this is yeah. Yeah, this is the main. No, it's the library part, I think, and it's pretty short, no? And that's because it's thanks to all these libraries, especially this rapid fast and well, yeah, if you're interested, you can read, well, you can just Google for Levenstein distance and learn everything about it. But yeah, so the reason why my scripts are so short is because those people wrote really nice libraries. And okay, so I have this. This score 65 means, well, in terms of Levenstein distance, 65% of the texts are identical. And because of the differences in encoding and the orthographies, and then especially variants or some changed texts, we can adjust these numbers. So if you take a screenshot right now, you could use this QR code to access the source. Okay, I will have to switch to the slide. Then, so there's some pros and cons with my script. It's pretty primitive, but one nice thing is that it can tolerate levels of inconsistencies, typos, and everything. So those Levenstein distance is good for like fuzzy matching, and yeah, between encodings, conventions, of course, typos, and then variants, and yeah. And you can still find parallels, levels of variations. nice thing is that we get numbers in terms of the match. So yeah, one can decide how strict you want to be. And yeah, the levels can be adjusted with experiments. And the cons, there are many cons. So we'll go through some results shortly after, but we still need human intelligence to decide whether two things are matched or not. So yeah, this opens a door to, yeah, what about using AI, machine learning? Yeah, that would be future if I want, yeah, if someone wanted. And then small technical issues. Yeah, all my e-text are encoded in UTF-8. That means one consonant with the aspirates are represented in 2 letters. And so the differences in, yeah, it could change the outcome. So we might have to, yeah, we might have to do something about it if, yeah, to get more reliable results. And well, it's very hard to work with prose because I am comparing fixed length text with another fixed length text. So I did some experiments with prose, and yeah, somewhat successful, but not entirely. That's why I'm not showing that what we can do with prose text. And well, there are some suggestions using this n-gram matches. That's another topic for you to Google. And then, and yeah, but it might work. N-gram matches may work for short text, short pieces of text, but maybe not for comparing big corpora, like 2 commentaries, 2 big commentaries on, like, yeah, 2, yeah, on the same text and stuff. So and another con that I did not mention is that my method is very primitive and what's called brute force, yeah, solution. So I'm actually comparing one line with all the other lines and next line with all the lines from another text. This is not particularly sophisticated, but given the power of modern computers, even though mine is like 6 years old, it still produces results in reasonable time. And yeah, okay, let's look at some results. Where is it? So let's see what results we get when we compare the Śivadharma Shastra and Śivadharma. Okay, so this is it. So I have several tabs, and where is it? Okay, so this is the Śivadharma Shastra and the Śivadharmottara. And so, yeah, the output is in the text format, tab delimited text format. I just made the results read by a spreadsheet. So, and I sorted the whole lines in descending order from these Levenstein ratios. So 100% matches. Well, yeah. Yeah, those 100% matches could be interesting, apparently fixed phrases, and one can do research about, yeah, how often these fixed phrases occur in other texts and stuff. So this could be interesting. And then more interesting things starts, yeah, and yes, and these 3 lines are where human intelligence is required. They're just empty lines and they're 100% matches. So yeah, it's not particularly useful. And then these are all, yeah, 100% matches, and yeah, again, fixed phrases apparently. So yeah, they can be interesting when we think of the origin of these texts. If other texts use these fixed phrases, then yeah, they may share some backgrounds with the Śivadharma Shastra or Śivadharma. And again, these fixed phrases. So yeah, the fixed phrases are not particularly interesting. And then we are seeing now 75% matches. And from the first glance, at the first glance, they may not seem particularly parallel, just, yeah, first few words. Yeah, okay. So it's yeah, it's parallel. Yahka Sampuja Shvam and Shvam Sampuja Na Eva Dear and also use Shiva Yogina. So Shiva Yogina.
Kengo, can I interrupt just for a second? Can I just ask,
Okay.
we're not seeing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We're not seeing what you're reading out or the difference.
Okay, so sorry.
75% of it.
Okay, now you see it?
Boja Yechipa Yoginam, this is what you wanted to.
Yes, Yogina Yogina.
Uh-huh.
Or am I clicking the right thing? Or
Yes, now I.
Okay, yes.
okay.
It's been stuck
Okay.
for about 5 minutes.
Ah,
But I think we
okay.
understood. I think we understood what was going on.
okay. And we don't have much time left, right?
No.
And
It's
okay, so yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Well, if
now
anyone is interested, or yeah, I can give it to you. So yeah, we find so many parallels, how many lines, and when it goes to like less than 65, it may not be meaningful. Yeah.
So
And
the
then-
percentage is what is what is in line E, right?
Yes.
59. Okay, so this is the level of closeness. Okay.
Matches. Yeah.
Matches.
Closeness,
Okay.
so to say, yeah.
Okay.
And then that was Śivadharma Shastra and Śivadharmottara. And yeah, another interesting thing about the corpus is that Csaba probably knows very well that he must be suspecting the close connection between the Vrishtasara Sangraha and Dharma Putrika, and we can show it. So
Again, the screen is not moving. I mean.
oh, okay. Then I should. Okay. Maybe tabs are not. So this is Vrishtasara Sangraha and Dharma Putrika. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, well, again, maybe up to 65 is meaningful, but yeah, about 40 lines shared. And this doesn't happen with the Dharma Putrika with any other members of the corpus. So we can kind of clearly demonstrate that the Vrishtasara Sangraha and Dharma Putrika share backgrounds. And the same with and in this case, okay, I think I'll have to move it again. So when it comes to the Uma Maheshwara Samvada and Uttara Uma Maheshwara Samvada, then yeah, it's again a lot of same lines or slightly modified lines and clear, yeah. So our suspicion that the Uttara may be a reworked version of the Uma Maheshwara Samvada kind of gets confirmed with this comparison.